Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this Mathigon webinar on puzzles, games, and art in Polypad. My name is David Poras. I am the head of content at Mathigon and a middle school math teacher, and I'm really excited to spend this hour with you tonight exploring a variety of puzzles, games, and artistic ideas on Polypad. As you're getting settled here, if you want to drop your name and maybe where you are in the world and your role in math education into the chat on the YouTube live stream, it'd be great to know who we have with us tonight. So we'll get started in a minute or so, but I'd love to see who is joining us on the live stream. My name is Dave. I am from outside of Boston, Massachusetts. I am the head of content at Mathigon and a middle school math teacher. So we'd love to see who else is with us this evening joining this webinar. We'll get started in like a minute or so. Hello, Amy. Welcome, fifth grade teacher in Ohio. Glad you are spending some time with us this evening, exploring puzzles, games, and art on Polypad. If you are watching this after the fact, thanks for checking it out. Hello, Jared from Edmonton. Welcome. Glad you're here. We'll get started in another minute or so. Hello, Molly in Boston as well. Great to see you. Thanks for coming out to another webinar. And we'll get started in another 30 seconds. Feel free to drop your info into the chat so we can see who is with us tonight. As I get going, keep those questions and comments coming in the chat. I'll be checking it out as we go and pausing every now and then to make sure I haven't missed any. So feel free to drop any questions, comments that you have in the chat. Welcome, Peter from Bay Village, Ohio, retired high school math teacher. Congratulations on retiring and great job still staying connected into education. Hello, Teresa. Awesome. All right, well, I'm going to jump in. It is 2 minutes past the hour, so let's get started and dive into puzzles, games, and art on Polypad. Here I am at mathigon.org. Mathigon is free for everyone, free for teachers and students all around the world. And so I'm excited to share some ideas with you this evening. I know there's some folks that have been on our previous Mathigon webinars that we've done, so a few things you might have seen, but I hope to explore some ideas that are new to you as well. All right, so here I am at Mathigon. I'm going to click on Polypad in the upper right. There's a number of other things to explore on Mathigon courses and activities. We'll be spending a lot of time on the lesson plan page, but I'm going to hop over to Polypad, which is our open canvas for exploring mathematics. And just to get us going, I want to do a warm-up game that you might have seen on other Mathigon webinars that we've done. But I'm going to find that in our link at the top called Lesson Plans. So I'm going to click on that. I'm going to open it in a new tab. So I have Polypad here. This is just at mathigon.org/tasks. We have a growing library of lesson plans, explorations, puzzles, and games, which we'll be spending time with tonight. And I'm going to scroll down just to the class openers and math talks. And one of the class openers and math talks that I enjoy with the seventh graders that I teach, but I've seen it done with a number of ages of students, is what are the two cards? So I'm going to open this. If you've seen this before, I've added some features to make it a little bit more useful and engaging with students. And so this shows a broad range of the tiles available on Mathigon to create puzzles, games, and art. And so I thought this would be a good place to start. So I'm going to click and drag to select the 10 cards. I'm going to put them in a stack. I'm going to turn the stack over, and then I'm going to shuffle. And you can hear some sound effects as I'm doing it. When I click on a tile, an action bar appears. So there's this bar underneath the tiles, which I'm going to be calling the action bar. You can see when the cards are no longer selected, the action bar goes away. I click back on it. You can pin the action bar. So over the course of the webinar, if I don't want the action bar under the tile, I could pin it, and it goes to the bottom of the canvas, and it'll stay at the bottom of the canvas, or I can unpin it, and it'll stay underneath the tiles that I have selected. I'm going to draw a card and put it on one side of the balance scale. I'll draw another card and put it on the other side of the balance scale. So I have two cards, 1 through 10. I don't know what they are. And then I have students like choose a helpful move. What do they want to do? There are our 6 dice over here, and maybe the first student would choose to put the 4 and the 3 on the scale. And when I do that, it stayed where these 2 cards are heavier than 7. So that was a helpful move. This is a 10 frame, actually. I will show you in a few minutes how to build a 10 frame. But when I double click on the counter, it goes from orange to red. So here I've done a helpful move. That tells me the cards are more than 7. I could roll the dice again. Feel free to put in the chat what do you think the cards are if you like. And of course, on the second move, that was a very helpful move. I rolled the dice and they equal 8. So the sum of the cards now, I know on this first one, adds up to 8. There we go. And the task is to figure out the 2 cards. So maybe the third helpful move a student might suggest is let's take off this card and see how that one, well, we know it is lighter than 8, but I'll take off the 5 and we'll see. And we know this card is heavier than 3, so that was helpful. Let's see how that card compares to 5. It is heavier than 5. Let's see how this card compares to 6. It is equal to 6, so I wasn't keeping track of my helpful moves. I think I got to 5 helpful moves. We can turn it over, and then we know that is 6 and 2. So a really fun like class opener, warm-up. Kids could do this individually on their own device. They could do it in pairs. Each pair could be doing a different version, and the number of students that got it in the most helpful moves could be the winner. You could do it as a whole class. Lots of fun to be had with this activity. So again, I'm going to dive into games. I'm going to spend, 15 minutes on games, maybe 10 minutes on games, another 10 to 15 minutes on puzzles, and then 10 to 15 minutes on art in Polypad. So those are the 3 kind of buckets I'll be talking about: games, puzzles, and art. I'll be sharing some examples of ones that are pre-made to use, and then ways to use the tools to make your own game, puzzles, and art. And more importantly, have your students make their own game, puzzles, and art. So I'm going to move away from this one and click on the lesson plan link at the top. And I'm going to pull up a game that is a common elementary school game called Blockout. And here is a task page that has a video introduction, a lesson plan. I'm not going to read it because here we are on the webinar, but I will click on the Polypad. This version comes from Dan Finkel over at Math for Love. I know on YouCube they call it Race to 100. It's a great activity for students where you take the 2 dice and roll them. And then I got 4x4, so I have to make a 4x4 rectangle to fill in this 10x10 grid. So here is a rectangle. This is our custom polygon. I'm going to copy it and drag it over, and I can use these black vertices to change the size of the rectangle, right? And so there's my 4x4 rectangle. If I don't want to move the vertices by accident, there's the option to fix the vertices. And so now this is a 4x4 that I could rotate if I want to have it going this way, and I could put it anywhere I want on the grid. And then if I was playing with a partner, it'd be their turn. They would roll, and I got a 6x2. I'll copy it again. Maybe they would make their 6x2 like this. I will stop after this one and show you some options where doing it virtually can add some value that paper and pencil don't. Maybe my partner would fix their vertices, and she might make hers orange, and we'd continue along this way. You could do it as a competition where the last person to make a move is the winner. You could do it in a collaborative way. How close to filling up the grid can you get? Lots of ways to explore this game. I have a pre-made one that I want to share because this game is a great like paper and pencil activity where you have crayons and you color it in and you roll the dice. And virtual tools that we're going to be exploring in this webinar don't always take the place of paper and pencil. Some games, puzzles, activities are best hands-on, doing it on paper and pencil. But I'm going to be sharing some ones tonight where I think doing it in a virtual space can add value to what's done in the paper and pencil version. And so one example that I was thinking of here, let's say students were playing this on Polypad and they were keeping track of their multiplication problems on the side over here, and they have a grid like this, and maybe there's a move that they can't make, but they could explore moving the rectangles around to create a different arrangement of the opening. And maybe they could go something like this, and now there's space for an opening for maybe a number that they rolled, where when I first had it, a number that I rolled like 3 by 5, right? 3 by 5 couldn't fit in the white space there, but when I moved them around, I was able to put all the empty space together to fit a 3 by 5. And so this is an example, I think, where when you're doing it in paper and pencil or crayons, I guess pencil, you could erase and move the rectangles, or you could cut it up, but really easy to be able to take the rectangles and move them around. And maybe each student is allowed a couple moves over the course of the game. Could be a fun way to take this that's in electronic format and leverage the tools to make the game a little bit more interactive for students. I put out on Twitter this week a new version of this game, which I will put the link in the chat because it's not up on our task page yet. So I will drop this link in the chat here. And again, as I'm going on, feel free to put any questions in the chat, any comments that you have, anything I can do to be helpful. I'll be checking out the chat as we go. And so here, this is the same sort of game. Can you fill the grid? Except there's one dice to roll. And now instead of being given the dimensions of the rectangle 4 by 4, the number on the die is going to be the area of the rectangle. So I will roll this and we'll see that I got a 16. And you can see in the tile menu here, I've only put the number tiles, number bars, and number frames on this canvas for students. I'll share in a few minutes how you can create a canvas like this that doesn't have all of the tiles that we'll be exploring in a little bit. So I got 16. If you've explored our number tiles, you know there's a 10 frame, and I'll put another 10 to make 20. I need to get rid of 4, so I'll split them. I'll select 4, hit delete in the action bar. So this is 16, but then I can merge them back together. And on our number tiles, when you merge them, there's a black handle here that will make different arrangements of 16. So I could stop at 4 by 4. Maybe I'll do 2 by 16, and I'll put that in there. And then I'd roll again. And I got 19. And so let's talk about a student who wants to build 19. So there's 20. And I will split those, get rid of 1. I love that I got 19 right away. I'll merge those together and try to make a rectangular array of 19. And we can't do it. It's not possible, right? Because 19 is prime. So no matter how I try to do it, I can't do 19. And so depending on the age of students, this might be a great point to pause and have that conversation. Older students might know sooner that 19 is not possible. So that's a strike. So I go to that counter and I double click and there's my strike. I got 1 strike. And then I would continue. I got 17, of course. I'm getting 2 primes in a row. So that's a strike. I'm 2 strikes in and I got a lot of the grid to fill up. 6. All right, this is a good time to show our number bars. I could take a 6. This is not, I can't change the size of that 6. So I could take the 6 and put it in there. I maybe could use these number frames like the pneumacons, and I could make 4 and 2 is 6 like that. And maybe I'll take that 6 and rotate it and put it up here. And on I go. I only have 1 strike left, so I will stop there. I think you see how the game works. I want to build this game from scratch because this was just an idea that I had with Blockout. I've played Blockout a bunch. I've seen how it works. I was thinking, how could I take that game using the Polypad tools of multiple numerical representations and a 20-sided die and counters and make a game? And I think it's a good example to show off some of the Polypad tools. So I'm just going to go to a blank canvas. I can do that by clicking Polypad at the top. Here is a blank canvas. Notice all the tiles are here. Geometry, patterns and art. We'll be coming to that later on. Numbers. We have a fraction section. Let me change my display here. We have algebra tiles, probability and data, games and applications. So much to explore. But I want to build that game that I just showed you as a way to show you how some of the tools work. So first thing I want to do is put on a grid background. You saw in my game there was a grid background. I can do that in the settings bar on the right. And this is the grid that I had on the canvas. And then I drew a 10 by 10 box. On the bottom is another settings bar with a number of tools. There's a drawing tool. This first one is the pen will draw a curvy line. I want them to be straight, so I'll get rid of that. And there's a ruler here that will draw a straight line. So I'm going to make a 10 by 10 grid. You can see it kind of snaps along the grid. And that is no longer movable on the canvas. That is fixed. I can't drag it around like a tile. A pen stroke is fixed to the canvas. So there's my 10 by 10 grid. Then under probability and data, we have the polyhedral dice, and that's where I will find the 20-sided dice. So I'll put that on the canvas, zoom in a little bit, and roll it. So that works, right? The next thing I had was almost like a 3-frame as the counters. And so I found that in the number frame section. This is a 10-frame, right? If you've explored 10 frames with elementary students, you can see that this has the look of a standard 10 frame, but you can change the size of it. I guess that would be a 20 frame. I could expand it in all directions to the right and down, but I just wanted a 3-frame because I only wanted 3 strikes and you're out in this game. You could change it and make 5, of course. And notice on mine, these handles weren't there. Students couldn't change the size of the frame. And I'm going to unpin the action bar. Remember this action bar I can put at the bottom. Let me get it up here. And one of the options under this gear is to show the handles or not. So I'm going to click, I'm going to turn that off so I can't see the handles. And then here are the counters. Here are the strikes. Right? And then I added a bunch of text. I'm not going to copy all the text. You have the link if you just want to take that game and play it. But some text that I added was strikes. This is more to show you how you can make a game of your own. All right, so there is, that's my game basically. There was a little bit more on the canvas. Let me go back to my game as well. I'm just going to go to polypad.org and go to my file menu. And here was the actual game. You can see it's pretty much what I've built with the 10 by 10, the dice, and the strikes. But a few things that I did on this one that I shared with you at the beginning, it just had number tiles, bars, and frames. That's all I wanted the students to use in this activity was the tiles, bars, and frames. On this one that I've built, oh, hopefully, there it is. On this one that I've built, all of the tiles are here. And depending on the age of your student, this can be kind of overwhelming for students. I teach middle school. I'm a 7th grade math teacher outside of Boston. And at times, I just want to give them a full canvas, let them use anything that they want. Sometimes that can be distracting for them. Sometimes they just want to go play with things and put them on the canvas and aren't as focused on the task at hand as I would like. And so there are some new options that just came out this past week to make it easy for teachers to restrict what's on the canvas. And that is over here in the settings with the tools. First, I'm gonna save this canvas. I'll go to my file menu. I'll call this blockout example. It is free to make an account. If you make a teacher or a student account, you can save canvases. You can see here are all my saved canvases. Again, this is free for teachers and students. So here is the canvas that I've made. I will, and now I will go to the tools and I'm going to customize what I want the students to see on the screen. And so the first thing to notice is the sidebar. The sidebar is where all of the tiles are. So I'm going to toggle them all. I'll click toggle all to turn them off. And I just want students to have the tiles, bars, and frames. I'll click save, and you can see now in the tile menu, that's all that's there. So really easy to limit what is on the canvas for students. I'll click save, and now I've made this for them. I could add more text. I can share this with students in a number of ways. I can get the link at the top and just copy the link and put it in Google Classroom, put it in another LMS that I might use. I could email it to students, all sorts of ways to share these polypads with students. One more thing to show, this die I can move around the screen. On the one that I shared with you, if you open it and check it out, I can't move this die around the screen. It's stuck there. You can kind of see by my cursor. I'm trying to click and drag it, but I can't. I can roll it. I can't even delete it. I'm hitting delete right now. I'm doing it kind of loud so you can hear it. Delete. It doesn't go away. On the one that I've made right now, I can move this around the screen. I can delete it. Let me undo it to get it back. But I don't want my students to be able to do that because if they lose the 20-sided die and it's not over here because I got rid of the probability tools, it's going to be hard for them to get it back. And so another option here under the gear is to lock the position. And so if I lock the position, what that does is it keeps the tile, this is for any tile, it keeps it there. It means you can do actions to it like roll it, but you can't move it or you can't delete it. So I'm going to lock the position, and now you can see I can't get rid of it. I'll hit delete. It doesn't go away, but I can roll it. The last thing to show you is a text box. I want to just have it kind of exist in the background. So the options for all tiles are to lock them to the canvas. Here, I locked the position. That means, again, it's stuck there, and you can use it. When you lock a tile, it's kind of in the background. I showed you how I drew these lines, and I can't move them. A locked tile, let me go here, and I'm going to lock this tile. Now you can see when I click on it or I click and drag on it, nothing happens. I can't do anything with that locked tile. The last thing to show about how to create things, and then I'll move on to other examples, is you might not want students to be able to unlock things, right? If students are, if they click something by mistake and they go to the gear here and unlock it, then they could hit delete by accident. So also in the customize menu, there's so many choices here. I'm going to make a whole video down the road about how to use this. But at the very bottom are all the options on the action bar. So I'm going to unselect lock position and click save. And now lock position goes away. So students can't unlock that position. In fact, I don't need any of those options for students. The gear could be confusing for them. So I'll go back here and I'm going to uncheck keep at back, keep on top, lock tile, make invisible. I click save. The gear's gone because those options aren't available on this canvas. So there's so many customizable features that allow you to really make a canvas exactly how you want students to be able to engage with that activity. Of course, if they're feeling really, really ambitious and they want to mess it up on purpose, at this point, they are still able to pull up all of these options on their own and explore and see what happens. But we are working on some features for teachers to have a canvas set where students aren't able to go into the tools and customize all of these features here. Before I move on, I don't see any questions in the chat, but I will keep checking. I'm going through a lot here, and I've talked about how to save and share with classes. I want to just draw your attention to the question mark on the right-hand side, which is the help menu. And this is a link to all of our in-depth tutorials on how to use Polypad. In fact, you can also get there by going just to mathigon.org/pd. I'll put that in the chat as well. It's just mathigon.org/pd. And here you can see there are some pages on getting started. If you are brand new to Mathigon and this is your first webinar, this might be a lot to take in the first 23 minutes. So maybe you're a third grade teacher and you're like, this is awesome, I'm excited, but I kind of need to take a step back and slow down and really just explore. Go to the Welcome to Mathigon 3 through 5 page, and it gives you an overview about all that Mathigon can offer for third through fifth grade teachers and students. There are user guides. This is the webinar that we're in right now. You could watch past webinars. And then there are a bunch of video tutorials on how to make classes, how to share things to Google Classroom, how to share them with your Mathigon classes. So all of these features here at mathigon.org/pd can help you learn more about Polypad as you're exploring. I'll give a plug for our guest speaker series while I'm here. Coming up in about a week and a half is Dan Finkel. He'll be talking about conjectures and counterexamples, and you can see the rest of the lineup for the year as well as who we've had up until now. All right, let me show you just one other quick game that is a very popular game on Polypad. If you've been to other webinars, you might have seen this as well, but it's always great to point out. This is the Genius Star and the Genius Square. Again, a great physical game. I have it at home. I play with my kids. In school, I don't have 25 of them or 12 of them to put students in pairs and play. And so this is a nice option to be able to play on Polypad. This is put on Polypad with the permission and approval and excitement from the Happy Puzzle Company, who is the creator of the Genius Star and the Genius Square. Let me just show you how this works. It's a wonderful game for students. The goal of the game, you take all these spinners, you spin them all at once, and you put all of the gray squares in those numbers. So this first one looks to be at 44. So I called these squares, didn't I? They're triangles. It is 7:25 at night after a full day of teaching middle school, so I apologize. Those are triangles. I'll put the 44 over here, I have to rotate it. And then I will take the 18 and put it here. Of course, I have to rotate that one. I'm going to stop here because I want to get to a lot of other things. And there's instructions on how this game works. But you take all of the gray squares, you put the gray triangles, you put them in the numbers on the spinners, and all of these other pieces will cover up what is left in the star. So you could put the pink parallelogram over here. I could put the blue quadrilateral trapezoid there, and so on. And every possibility of numbers has a solution. It is a game my students at home enjoy. I have a third grader. My seventh grade students enjoy it. I enjoyed it as an adult, so I encourage you to go explore that game and have a good time with it. That is the Genius Star. That is on our lesson plan page. You can find it just by searching the word genius, and two of them will come up, Genius Square and the Genius Star. Hello, Daniel. Welcome. Awesome. Let me keep going on and share with you a few other things. I'm going to go back to Polypad. You can see that the last time I was here, I was making that canvas that just had number tiles, bars, and frames. So it stored that the last time I made a canvas, all I wanted was those. I just want a clean slate here. So I'm going to go over to the gears, and there are some presets here. Everything, common, and simple. Simple might be a good one to start with students. If you want, I'm just going to go to everything because I know what I want here, right? I want every possibility. So on Polypad, I want to highlight for you some tools that might be helpful to make games. So I just showed you how I made a different version of Blockout. Here are our coins, dice, and spinners. So I was using some dice. Here are coins to flip. You can put a bunch of them on the canvas at once. I can roll all of those. But the spinners, we have two types of spinners, and these are great for you making games for your students, and please share them in Twitter and other social media channels. We'd love to see the games that you make up with, that you create for your students, as well as the games that the students create, and encourage your students to use these tools to make a game. So let me talk about these spinners because I'm going to show you some examples of how I use the spinners. This first one is a uniform spinner. That's where all of the regions are the same size. Let me get back here. That zoomed in on me significantly. I don't need that. All right, here we go. Let me start over and go to Polypad and go to these spinners. All right, here we are. So a uniform spinner, all of the regions are the same size, but I can change the number of regions with this black circle. So you can see I can go from 2 up to 16 regions, all the same size. The custom spinner starts with 4. I can change the size of the region by taking this black dot and moving it. And then if I want to add a region, I click on the black circle and it adds a region. If I want to get rid of one, I can click on that and it goes away. So you can make all sorts of custom spinners for a variety of activities. You can see in the Genius Star that I showed, I put a number in each region of the spinner. You can put numbers, you can put words, you can put pictures, and then you can lock those so the spinner spins, but the numbers don't move. Again, let me show you in the Genius Star how that worked, because it's really helpful as you make your own games to allow students to explore this, to be able to use the spinner just by a click and a drag. So you can see I click and drag here, and because all I've selected are the spinners, I can spin, right? There's lots of text boxes there that are locked to the canvas. Now let's say I've done this whole thing and I've locked all the tiles, and that one was supposed to be a 2, and I realized that after I've locked everything, there's a way to unlock those tiles and edit them and lock them again. And so that comes up in the grid and display. So under grid and display, there's an option to edit the hidden and locked tiles. So I'm going to turn that on, and you can see now that I can click on the 1. There's also this graphic in the bottom corner that tells me I'm in the mode where I can edit the locked tiles. So this 1 here, I can move it around now. I could change it to a 2. I don't want to because it's supposed to be a 1. But I could do that, and then I could go back over here and I can lock everything again. And now you can see I'm not able to click on the 1. So that's a really helpful tool. All right, where was I though? I was trying to show you some of the tools in probability and data to make your own games. So we have spinners that I showed you. We have these playing cards that are super helpful. You could take a full deck of cards and shuffle them and draw a top card. Maybe you only want 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 in a stack. You could put those on the canvas and stack them and turn it over and shuffle and draw. So that's super helpful. We have all sorts of dice from 4-sided up to 20-sided. And then we have non-transitive dice. There's a webinar on probability where I dive into what non-transitive dice are and all the fun games you could play with non-transitive dice. So if that's something you're interested in, you could go to our task page, and this button will take you right to our PD page, and you could find a webinar on probability, which is right over here, Exploring Probability from August. You could go check that out. So let me share with you a game that I made recently with my 7th graders. We had been exploring adding and subtracting integers, positive and negative numbers. And we had done a lot with floats and anchors. And kids really developed a nice understanding of how addition and subtraction of integers worked. -7 minus -3. They could think about that means I'm removing 3 anchors, so the boat goes up. They had really, I think, made good understanding of the ideas. I kind of just wanted them to get some practice in. And so I made a Polypad that I will share with you. And that's under File. It's not on our task page yet, so I'll put the link in the chat. It was called Integer Questions, Addition and Subtraction. Pretty simple Polypad here, but it uses a number of the tools. And so I have the heads coin is a positive and the star coin is a negative. And then you can see I can select all of these and I can spin them. And so this was 2 plus -10. And they wrote down 2 plus -10 and they solved it. And then I had them do another one. And what do we got here? -20 plus -3. And they did that. And then I had them talk in groups. What do they think is the biggest number they can make? And what do they think is the smallest number? And so that was a good conversation with these choices. What's the range of numbers? And then I gave them a bingo board and said, all right, fill in your bingo board from the -40 to 40. And we played bingo. But what was great was at some point I was getting a bunch of additions. And it was like that. Of course, I'll get a subtraction now. But I was getting like +3 plus +2, and they loved it. And after a while, I was like, all right, I need to change things up. So I went to the spinner, and I clicked Show Handles, and I went like this. And they were like, no, right? And it was so easy to do in the moment. And it was a nice, like, fun moment for the class. And then I did it again. Oops. And then I found that I wasn't getting as many like negatives on this number as I wanted. So for a while, I just did this. I'm holding down the shift key and I'm spinning everything else. And that was super fun. So we were able to get lots of practice in while also talking about what can happen as I change it. Because at this point, there was this great moment where I did this and there was one student that said, oh, awesome. I have all negative numbers left on my board. And I was like, wow. Talk more about that. And they were like, well, we've just done subtraction now. Subtraction is going to come up more. So that means we'll get more negative numbers. And pause, talk to each other. What do you think? And we had a whole great conversation about that. They were annoyed because they just wanted to play, but they kind of liked the conversation as well. I wasn't planning on that conversation, right? But having these tools up and ready to go made that a really easy thing to do. I'm seeing a question of fraction or decimal dice. We don't have them yet, but I know a feature that's on our list is the ability to customize what's on the dice. And so hopefully coming soon will be the ability to do that. But the other game that I played with them after we got good addition and subtraction, where we were ready to explore like 4 operations, was, this same thing where the result was some fractions. Of course, I probably won't get one. -2 divided by -1 divided by 1. But the answer was, what I did, we found the answer and put it in the right spot on the number line. And then we had some good conversations about are some regions more likely to come up than others. So that was a fun game. Oh my gosh, that's way too much time on games. I'm going to go talk about puzzles now. All right, so that was games. Hopefully I gave you some ideas of how you could make games of your own, how you could use our games to engage students in mathematical play. But let's talk about puzzles. And I don't see any other questions other than Amy's in the chat about fractional or decimal dice. You could certainly use the dice that we have to make, ways to combine them to make a fraction or a decimal. But also what would be a really easy thing to do would be to take a spinner and maybe, you take a spinner like this. Let me zoom in, and I want to make the green be a half. So I just went to the equation thing on the bottom. I'll click fraction, and there's, oops, I missed. Oh, let me try again, sorry. I'll click fraction, and I'll make that 1/2. I could make this bigger like that and stick the 1/2 there. I could lock the position, so then I can just take the spinner. Oh, I don't think I locked it. I want to lock the tile, not the position. There we go. And now I could spin that, and that's a half. Oh, you're not seeing my screen. Thank you so much. There we go. Oh, awesome. Thank you. I forgot to switch to that. I was just talking about how I took the spinner. I used the equation to put a half in that region on the spinner. Here's the equation tool. So you could use that, do a fraction, make this 2/3. I made it bigger. And then you could stick that over here, maybe make it white so it stands out a little bit more if you wanted to. I could lock. Can you see it? I think you can see it now. Thank you all for telling it. I could lock the position and then, lock the tile. I could lock the tile and then I could spin it like that. So there's a way to make your own custom spinner with fractions. All right, cool. All right, let's go to puzzles. There are so many puzzles on our task page, which I'm not going to have time to share. If you just search by puzzle here, right, you will see a number of puzzles that come up. But one idea that I want to share, which I think is really fun for students, is for them to build their own puzzles. And so one nice example of this is working with tangrams. So here is a lesson plan on building a tangram puzzle. I'm not going to go through the whole lesson plan. You can watch it, but let me just go to a Polypad, and I'm going to go to our tangram section. I'll put them all on the canvas just by clicking. I think I missed the blue triangle. There are the tangrams. I'm going to make something. I'm not going to spend a lot of time making it because I want to get to how to share the puzzle. I would do this with students, and I would say, just, go build something. And so here, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to rotate this and take the square and just put it over here, and then take this triangle like that. And not my most creative, but I just want to get to it. And there's a puzzle, but then I can click and drag over the whole thing, and I can do join, and now it's made, I don't know, actually not bad. It's made something. And then the students could save this. They could save their canvas. I will save it here, right? I'll just say tangram puzzle. I'll hit save. What I did with my students is I had them copy the link and put it in a Google form, and then the Google form automatically made a spreadsheet, and then students could go to that Google sheet and click on everyone's puzzle and try to solve it. So if I put this link into the chat, you kind of saw how I did it, but now there's a tangram puzzle that I made up for you to solve. And my 7th graders had a lot of fun with that, but I could see all ages of students having fun. I could add to this. I don't really know what it looks like, but maybe I could add some art to it and make it into something. That's my attempt at a sun. So students could get much more artistic with that. Building their own tangram puzzle is super fun. The other puzzle that is in our task page that I think is great for students to build are these balance scale puzzles. So it's called building balance scale puzzles. We have building tangram puzzles. We have building balance scale puzzles. Here's one that I built this past winter, which is kind of like a system of equation thing. It's kind of like one of those emoji puzzles. You can see the answers here because I'm in my teacher account, and in my teacher account, it shows the answers. But for students, these would just be a question mark. Now, these pictures here aren't any tiles that are available on Polypad. I found an image, and I just did a screen capture of it and brought it onto the canvas, and then you can assign it to a value on the Polypad. On the balance scale, you can put it on the balance scale and assign a value to it. So here's a puzzle that I made, and then I had students go off and make their own balance scale puzzles, which would be a fun thing to explore. I'll go back to the lesson plan page and just go to the balance scale. There are a number of examples of balance scale polypads, as well as this lesson plan on how to make your own puzzles. But let me move along because I want to show a few other puzzles and then get to mathematical art. We could do a whole hour on mathematical art. We have a Pentomino Zoo, which is fun for students to explore. So I'll go to this canvas at the bottom. All of these animals can be made using all 12 of the pentominoes. So you just take the 12 pentominoes and copy them. And this butterfly you can use with all of these shapes. I'm not going to go through it, but I could try and explore and try to build the butterfly. And then these 12 shapes, I could use them all. And then, oh, I missed one. And I could make the camel. And so I shared this with students. I had them go to File. They saved a copy of it to their account. And I have some students who have kept with this. When we have 5 minutes at the end of class or in a study hall, sometimes I see students pull this up and just kind of work through it, which is nice to see that they're coming back as they're enjoying trying to fit all these pieces together to make these animals. And then, of course, I encourage them to make some animals of their own. So all sorts of puzzles. Again, go to our task page and just type in puzzle and a number will come up. Or of course you could just you could search by puzzles and games, and you can see there's a growing category of puzzles and games from Shut the Box to Split the Hexagon, the puzzle of the day. Go check out, it's a great puzzle. The Genius Star and Square that I shared, all sorts of great fun to be had. All right. Before I dive into mathematical art in the final 15 minutes or so, I'll leave time for questions at the end. Any questions coming up in the chat that I think I've got them all. Thank you for letting me know about my screen. So I'll make sure to do that for the art exploration that we're about to do. All right, so there's my screen again. I'll go to a clean Polypad and let's explore some mathematical art. So one of my favorites is just to let kids go build with polygons. Just go build something. So I'll take, this is one of my favorite things to build. I'll take a hexagon. Our polygons kind of snap into place. You can see as I put it close to the hexagon, it snaps in place. This triangle, that's a triangle, right? Not a square. That's a triangle. I will make this. And one more triangle here. I'm going to put this at the bottom now because I also can just copy with the C button. If you just tap C on a tile, it'll make a copy of it. So I'm going to select all of these, copy it, rotate it around. You might see where I'm going here. And I've just kind of surrounded the hexagon with these shapes. It all kind of snaps into place. I'll click a bunch of these, and copy this and put one down here, copy it again, and I am tessellating the plane, right? I could rotate it like this and grab the top half and just keep having a good time. I could do this for the rest of the webinar and just enjoy myself. How cool is that? And what great math to explore. What's the pattern that repeats? What's the ratio of hexagons to squares to triangles in that pattern? On and on you go. What makes it a tessellation? So much fun could be had with the tessellation. All of these polygons, let me just talk about polygons for a second. You can change the color of them. You can rotate them. You can move them around. You can cut them. I've been exploring the area of circle in my 7th grade classes. We've been cutting up polygons a whole bunch. An area of parallelograms, cutting them, putting them back together. If you don't know, you can fold polygons and make nets. Let me just do a quick cube because it's so much fun. So here's a net of a cube. I can fold that net and there's the cube. If you haven't seen that, go watch our geometry webinar where I dive more into that. But then there's this polygon, which is our custom polygon. So all of these are fixed where you can cut it and change the color and move it. But this is the only one that you can change size. Right now it's a pentagon, but I can click and drag all of these vertices to change the shape of the pentagon. But I also can click on a vertex to get rid of it, or I can click on a line to add a vertex to make any sort of shape that I want. But I want to go back to a quadrilateral, and I'll make a quadrilateral like this. And you may know, so now I'm going to fix the vertices because I'm happy with this. Oh yeah, awesome. Daniel tried let me just pop over here for a minute. Thanks for putting that in the chat, Daniel. Let me put that up here. Yeah, you tried the squares around the pentagon and the rotating angle fits perfectly. Yeah, that snapping feature is really, really nice as you put those together. So thanks for sharing that. I'm glad that worked out well for you. Let me go back to what I'm trying to build here. I'm going to fix these vertices. I'm going to copy it and rotate it around. And you may know that when you do this with a quadrilateral, you've made a shape that tessellates. So I'm going to copy a bunch of those, and I'm off and running with this tessellation. I can copy all of these. It snaps in right there really nicely. I can copy this thing and bring it over here, and I would have a great time doing this for the rest of the webinar as well. And maybe I'd change the colors of them. Maybe I want all these to be, I don't know what color. Maybe we'll go blue for those, right? How fun is that? In fact, there is a whole mini unit on our task page on tessellations, which I've just started to explore with my students, but I encourage you to go check it out. So I'm going back to our task page, and I'm going to search tessellations. And this really can span, this is like a mini unit. This is not a lesson plan. It includes actually what I would say would be each activity is like a day's lesson. So this first one is really like an intro to tessellations. How can you make tessellations with rectangles? How fun is that for kids? And then activity 2 talks about quadrilaterals and triangles that tessellate, something like I just made on the screen. Activity 3 gets into different shapes with triangles and hexagons, and then some pretty good math as to why some shapes tessellate and some don't. And then activity 4, I kind of built that, and it talks about why those tessellate. What's the configuration? What are those 6s and 4s and 3s all about? And then into some pretty intricate tessellations. These are irregular tessellations, and then it continues, MCS or tessellations and so on. So if you're interested in really doing a deep dive with students on tessellations, this mini unit, depending on the age of your students, maybe you start at the beginning and see how it goes, or maybe you go through the whole thing. I haven't quite got to it this year, but my vision is I would do like a day every couple of weeks on tessellations, and we would slowly build up our knowledge on tessellations here. On Polypad, I haven't even shared with you that in the file menu, these are all my saved Polypads. Of course, I have a lot, and I need to organize them a little bit more. But there are these examples and templates, and these are there whether you have an account or whether you're logged into your account or not. And let me just share with you in the geometry section. Here's a tessellation that we could explore. Here's just a nice example of a polygon star, and here's a fractal that is made with the fractal tiles. So you could, just like there's a mini unit on tessellations, I also want to show you in a second that there's a mini unit on fractals, which you could do that same thing. It has a number of activities where each could be its own day's exploration for students about how to explore fractals on polypads. You can see here under our geometry section, patterns and art, there is a whole section on fractals. You may know something about Penrose tiles. So these first 2 categories, Penrose tiles tessellate, but in a non-repeating tessellation. The tessellations that I was sharing with you have a repeating structure to it. These Penrose tiles tessellate, but not in a repeating pattern. And then we have these nature tiles, which are super fun to explore. You can do all sorts of nice things with these nature tiles. I will show you our Polypad tutorial. I clicked on the question mark and go to geometry. I'm going to jump all the way to the bottom because I want to find an example of the nature tiles. Look at that. Look how pretty that is with the nature tiles. So you could have your students explore those nature tiles and make something. Oops, sorry. Let me go back here to the tutorial, because one last category of mathematical art that I want to share is the tantrics and the column tiles. And so let me actually start at the column tiles. There's a small bug right now where there is an icon here that's supposed to appear that you can click on. That'll be updated soon. I can still click on it. You just don't see the icon. So it's kind of hidden right now. But if you do click on it, it'll bring you to a website on column tiles. And so there's a lot to explore and learn about column tiles. And obviously these tiles on Polypad are made in partnership with the organization that made these tiles. And so go learn about these tiles, and you can make all sorts of beautiful artistic creations with these tiles. I'll just start exploring something. Maybe I'll do this one here. And I don't know what I'm trying to get at, but you can see it's just kind of fun to start something and see what happens, see where you go. I often don't have something in mind when I start exploring these. But in the Polypad tutorial, all the way at the bottom is an example of the column tiles. So let me open this in a new tab. And that's one that I don't think I made this one. I think someone else in Mathigon made this beautiful column tile decoration. And then finally, our under patterns and art are these tantric tiles, which have paths and colors. And so I can connect this with a green one. And it's fun to just try to build and create and have things fit together as you build with these. I don't think this, oh, that might work. Yeah, again, I don't have a plan in mind. There we go. But you can see here's an example of that. This is an example of the tantric tiles. Yes, Daniel, I see your comment about the folding net. Yes, the folding net is a wonderful thing to explore. And under our 3D solids, we have a number that are pre-made, so you can put this on the canvas. Let me move it over here, and you can use the slider to unfold it and fold it back together. And in the file category, all the way at the bottom under examples, we have a whole canvas of all the Archimedean solids. So you can take one and you can unfold it and see. But I think it's much more fun just to show students the net of a cube and say, go build your own, and just see them trying to make sense of how to build a net, and they click full net and see what happens, and it works and it doesn't. And that's where the learning happens. I mean, this is awesome to see and is fun at some point. Yeah, good question on the tantric tiles. Let me jump over to that question. Do they correspond to the actual physical ones? That's my understanding. I'm fairly certain that those do correspond to the physical ones. If you want to follow up with an email, you can follow up by sending an email if you're not sure to support@mathigon.org. And I can follow up with you there. We're also on Twitter. We'll respond to questions on Twitter. I'm at David Poras. Feel free to get in touch with me that way as well, and I can give a follow-up to that question. We have like 3 minutes left, and then I will open it up to questions. But I want to show you one last thing here that has nothing to do with Polypad, but is in our courses. And so I've spent all night at Polypad here, which is our open canvas for exploring mathematics. We have all these courses here that I just want to draw your attention to. One course on mathematical art, and this is in the geometry section, the symmetry groups and wallpapers. So I'm going to open this course. I've spent time on this course, so I can scroll all the way to the bottom to see it. The way our courses work, that content appears as you engage in the course. So if I go to one that I haven't started, like I'll go to symmetry, you can see there is a lot of content because I've already clicked the option to reveal all the steps. But in gray at the top, if you're at a course for the first time, one of the options is to reveal the whole course. So you can also do that all the way at the bottom of the course. But if you're here for the first time, right up here in the top corner will be something that says reveal all steps. And when you do that in symmetry groups and wallpaper, I'm going to scroll all the way down to the bottom. And there's this space here to explore what a symmetry group is. And I'm not going to give it away. You can go read about it. I just want to show you how cool this works. I'm going to be in number 1. I put this out on Valentine's Day. And I draw a heart. And I can change colors. And I see that just as I click here, it's making the same shape in a number of different places. That orange one wasn't my best. That's the first symmetry group. Let me go look at number 6 maybe and see what happens when I draw a heart on number 6. Oh, that looks really different, right? So how is this symmetry different? Oh, that was like an intertwined heart, right? I didn't know it was going to happen on number 6, but that's pretty cool. And then I think number 17 is just really different as well. What happens when I go to number 17, right? And just allowing kids just to go draw, right? Just give them time just to go draw. Oh, what did I do there? I didn't like that. Let me undo that. Oh, I cleared the whole thing, but that's okay. Just go draw, kids, and see, pick a number and have them draw a number. And can they begin to make sense of what's happening at that number is a really fun thing for kids to explore. So I have run the gamut tonight. I had a whole list of other things that I wanted to share that we didn't get to. But I hope there were some ideas that sparked your interest, piqued your curiosity, thought of some ways that you could incorporate this with students. I love that I see an idea and I just go start building it on Polypad. And as I engage and play more, additional ideas come. Please share your ideas with us on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook. We love seeing what teachers come up with, and we will add those to our task page. So continue keeping those ideas coming. We have a few minutes. Any other questions? Amy, I'm glad this was helpful. The goal of this, I know for some people, if you are brand new to Polypad, a lot to take in, right? A lot of bouncing around, scrolling quickly. Obviously, this is being recorded. It'll be on the YouTube on the YouTube channel, so you can go check it out. Just a final few plugs. Our lesson plan page, all sorts of resources that you've seen, but also there's this link here to mathigon.org/PD, which a plug again for these getting started pages. If this was your first webinar, welcome to the Mathigon world. We hope you enjoy your stay and stay with us for a long time. These pages can help you get started. Like, okay, this was awesome, a lot to explore. How can I kind of take a step back and dive in? These pages might help. And then as you're using Polypad, if you have questions about, wait, how do the number tiles work again? All of these guides have details overview of all the tiles. So those, are right on the PD page, but also in Polypad, you might have noticed that all of the tile sections have a question mark here. So this takes you right to the instructions on geometry, same with numbers and so on. And it also can be found over here on the help menu. So lots of places to get the answers to your questions. Go watch our prior webinars. We did one last month on logic and computing. We put out these whole gates and lights and switches, which will be used soon to make mathematical art, exploring algebra, data science. And we have some ones that are coming up. March is exploring data science again. April's geometry. May is exploring numbers and fractions. And in June, my favorite webinar from last year was when we had teachers just come share ideas. So you didn't have to listen to my voice for the whole hour. We had 6 teachers sharing a number of ideas from a range of grade levels. Here are videos again. If you haven't explored multiplication by heart and you work with students who are working on their multiplication facts, spaced repetition, made in collaboration with Dan Finkel over at Math for Love. And again, these are a bunch of teacher videos. And then would love to see you at our guest speaker series. Whew! That was super fun. I am always amazed how fast the hour goes by for me. I hope it feels like a similar experience for you. You're still here. You could leave the live stream anytime you want. So if you're still here, I'll take that there was some value in this. Thank you for your time. Again, we are really excited about the growing Mathigon community out there. So share across social media channels, free for everyone, which is wonderful. So get your students signed up, get your colleagues signed up, and keep those ideas coming. All right. Yes, what a great one to end on. Thank you, Carol. Now I need to explore and play, and that really feeds my soul. And as educators, we need to find things, especially these days, that provide us joy and soul feeding, right? So great to hear that this provided a little bit of it. Feel free to share those ideas down the road. I will keep it open for another minute in case there's any questions, and then otherwise I will end the live stream. Thank you for joining, everyone. Really appreciate your engagement on this webinar. All right, I'm going to end it. Have a great night. Thanks, everybody. See you later.